Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me on.
Sean, you were just recently at the New Orleans Investment Show. What was the buzz there?
Well, I'm not sure at the show itself because I was there for a short time and I spent all my time meeting with people. It's actually a great thing that we're finally getting out and actually doing these conferences again. I mean, we've all been doing Skype conferences for a while, right? You know, so that kind of gets you through. But it's so good to actually get out and meet people and talk to them and have dinner. And I came back with like 7 or 8 interviews with like mining CEOs, that kind of thing, you know. So I got lots of great interviews, lots of great insight, learned about some projects I really didn't know were going on. So I found it extremely useful.
Is there excitement in precious metals and other exploration right now? Because I know the junior miners have still been suppressed despite the rest of the stock market exploding.
Well, certainly at the New Orleans Investment Conference, there was, but that's kind of skewed toward that crowd anyway, right? I mean, they're definitely precious metals type folks. I will tell you that I was looking at a chart of the Gold Explorers ETF and the large cap gold miners ETFs this morning, and the Explorers are outperforming the large miners, which I think is a very good sign. That's what you want to see when there's starting to get some excitement in the mining industry. You see the Explorers start to outperform. So, I mean, I recently added one miner, but it was a graphene miner. I'm not adding any gold miners right now, but I could certainly see myself taking some positions because the underlying story is very compelling for gold and silver. We just need for the price action to catch up with it.
Mm-hmm. Is there any feeling if the large cap stock market takes a plunge because people are just saying it's so overinvested, yet there's really little other excitement going on out there, that gold and silver eventually will take over?
Well, maybe. I mean, the thing about this market is money's rotating around it. You know, I mean, the market's zigzagging higher, but underneath the headline numbers, you're seeing this money just rush into one sector, but out of another sector at the same time. For example, oil stocks were quite hot until recently, and then, you know, money kind of rushed out a bit, which is actually making some of them look like good buys now, because I'm a big believer in the oil and gas story at least through next year. We also saw base metals come way off their highs on the feeling in the market, and again, this is just people's perception. There isn't much to back it up, but on the feeling that China was going to slow down its purchases. So, you know, it's really hard to say what's really going to happen with precious metals here. However, as the central banks continue to print money, as we see the global economies pick up, and that means people in China and India have more money to buy gold and silver, I think the outlook for it looks quite good.
Mm-hmm. Uranium, how's that looking?
That's looking great. Now, prices are lower now than they were a month ago, but I use that as a buying opportunity to add one position to my gold and silver traders portfolio. We like uranium a lot. It's done very, very well for us, and I'm going to pick up stocks on the pullback. Again, that's the thing where there's really some tremendous fundamentals that are coming together for it. And now you have all these funds that are picking up, lots of uranium. And then now Kazakhstan announced that its national uranium company is now going to have its own physical uranium from. All told, over the past few years, they've taken something crazy like 40 million pounds of uranium off the market. So, that's really soaking up a lot of the supply, the excess supply that's on the market. So I can't wait to see how that works out. But I am a big believer in the uranium story in the medium and longer term. And as I said, I just added a new pick, so even in the short term, that's working out for me.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, what's going on with lithium?
That's one of my better performing areas, actually. Lithium's doing great. And not only lithium, but battery metals as a whole. That actually was my presentation when I was at the New Orleans Investment Conference, was the EV megatrend and the battery metals megatrend. And, we don't know what the final infrastructure bill would look like, but I just had a column at wealth-wave.com on like Saturday, speaking about how if all the tax incentives they have in the infrastructure bill pass, and again, we can't predict that they will, but it seems we'll get at least some of that. If all of that passes, people in the U.S., really it's going to be cheaper for them to buy an electric vehicle than a regular vehicle. Because if you qualify for all the tax incentives for the average electric vehicle out there, Uncle Sam's going to pick up about 30% of the cost. That's going to be amazing. That's going to be tremendous for demand, and that will really kick the electric vehicle megatrend into higher gear, I believe.
Would that mean utilities with increased electricity use, would they be a future buy or a good buy now?
Well, I think they're a good buy now because of again, we don't know what will be in the final infrastructure bill, but part of what they have in the infrastructure bill is rebuilding America's electric grid. So, that means more money for the utilities. So, I think, people should be looking at them anyway.
Any other alternative energy buys? Did you get any strong message out of this World Climate Conference thing?
Not really. They all flew there on their private jets, and they say that we should all save more oil and gas, right? I think, again, the opportunities are kind of away from the mainstream. That said, I like select oil stocks here quite a bit because here's a fun fact. We saw OPEC raise its production limits in the most recent month. I think they're adding 400,000 barrels per month. But the funny thing is, in the most recent month, only about half of OPEC members pumped what they were allowed to pump. The others fell short. So maybe they increased a little, but it would seem that they can't turn on production fast enough to actually keep up with what OPEC says they can pump. Now, we know that the United States and other developed countries are begging OPEC to increase production more, and they're having a meeting about it on Thursday. However, if OPEC's already having problems meeting its production quotas, what are the odds that OPEC's going to say, no, we're good? I think that actually favors that. I think OPEC isn't going to pump more simply because many of the members have problems increasing their production in a hurry. Now, they can probably do it over the longer term, but, back during the pandemic, that caused chaos in the world's oil and gas markets. A lot of exploration companies and stuff like that, the companies you'd hire to find you more gas, to pump you more oil, they really cut back. Some went completely out of business, but some laid people off, and they're much smaller now. So that might be part of it, is that infrastructure to increase the amount of oil produced just isn't there, at least not there in a hurry. Over time they can do it, but in the shorter term, it's just not there right now.
The International Energy Association group, I forget the exact term, but they said there isn't enough money being invested in oil and gas exploration. Is that going to lead to $100, $200, $500 a barrel oil eventually?
I don't think, well, of course, $500 a barrel oil eventually. What's the value of the dollar at that point? I don't know. At a certain point, oil, the higher price of oil starts to impact global economic activity. I don't know what that pain point is. Probably around $100 a barrel, but it might be 120. We could definitely see another spike. We saw a spike down during the pandemic, right? We could see a spike up as there's a shortage of oil in certain markets. Now, that doesn't mean we're running out of oil. And one thing people have to keep in mind is I'm talking about the electric vehicle megatrend, and there is going to be a big concerted push to move to electric vehicles and other alternative energy, whether it's hydrogen or you name it. But that's going to take a long, long time. Probably my kids will be using oil in like one way or another, and I mean for transportation, not just for plastics. So this will all take time, but there are good opportunities. I mean, some of these battery stocks have been doing very, very well for us. And I see some more opportunities there. I like copper at this point. I think copper looks very, very good. We've seen a lot of people trying to rain on the parade saying, oh, China's not doing well economically and all that stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe they have some bumps, but they're still rocking along. They're still using all sorts of like copper. And the people who, or I should say some of the people spreading those rumors that China won't need more copper are the Chinese themselves, because they're trying to talk down the price of copper. Well, they have some success in that. They also talk down the price of coal. They talk down the price of aluminum. But longer term, the supply-demand fundamentals will come back in, and they need a lot of it for all sorts of things that they want to do.
And of course, electric vehicles need to be as light as possible. That means more aluminum bodies and frameworks. Yeah,
I know. And there are ways to play aluminum. Aluminum is one of the electric vehicle metals, absolutely, because it's so light. And that's one of the things we are going to see. Cars will have to become lighter and lighter. I don't know whether we'll end up using carbon fibers or you name it. I mean, maybe they can do some things with tires. I'm not really sure exactly how it plays out. There's a whole bunch of solutions out there. There's also solutions for EV batteries. I mean, we're all used to the lithium batteries, and that's fine, which are basically lithium, nickel, and some other things mixed in there. But they're also trying to come up with alternatives to that. And probably once a month, someone announces some new kind of battery. The problem is it's a long way between them announcing it works in the lab and actually rolling it out to actual general production. And then it's a long time before it becomes any kind of a viable alternative in the marketplace. So we'll still be using lithium for a long, long time. But there are other alternatives out there. And come back to me in 5 years, we'll see how things look. I just think it's a very exciting environment to be investing in.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
It's always a pleasure.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor at WeissRatings.com. If you have any questions for Sean, we'll ask that question for you. If you send it to info@HowStreet.com, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.